Tonight, caught red-handed.
How much was that? Oh, don't worry. We got it.
The undercover video and audio that helped bring down a former Winnipeg police officer. Also tonight,
compartmentalization is not enough.
the push for seatbelts on school buses takes on added urgency following a devastating rollover in western Manitoba.
I'm Jeff Keel, live on Main Street. Coming up, I'll tell you about a fire at a vacant Winnipeg hotel where previous safety concerns had been raised.
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
A notorious Winnipeg hotel has been reduced to rubble. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Fire ripped through the Manwin Hotel this morning, and despite the efforts of firefighters, the vacant building could not be saved. Now it's being demolished. It comes just about a year after the city forced the tenants of the Manwin out over safety concerns. Live where that hotel once stood tonight is CTV's Jeff Keel. Jeff, looks like a lot of activity behind you still tonight. What's happening?
Yeah, that's right, Marilee. There is a lot going on, and take a look behind me. That is once where the Manwin Hotel stood. It is now just a pile of rubble as crews continue the demolition work, and they will start to clear away stuff. There's a lot of heavy equipment around us right now. And a heads up for drivers, this entire area here on Main Street is still blocked off, and the streets adjacent to it, traffic is backed up, so if you can avoid this area, do it. A vacant Main Street hotel with a checkered past has burned to the ground.
This building is basically lost. It's been vacant for a while.
Early Wednesday morning, firefighters responded to a blaze at the Manwin Hotel. Streets were blocked in several directions, and the Main Street project next door was evacuated, sending people to other shelters and a community center.
All the other shelters are working together to make sure there's coverage.
What's left of the hotel is being demolished, and the site will be remediated.
We are asking residents to avoid the area while this work continues.
The costs associated with the work will be slapped on the owner's property tax bill. The move is one of many changes the city has made to crack down on vacant buildings.
We're looking to move to take ownership of properties sooner in some cases.
After years of reported safety issues, the city issued a vacate order for the Manwin a year ago. The mayor says the fire is proof they did the right thing.
The building suffered from numerous fire safety issues, and this could have been a much worse tragedy if there were dozens of people still living there.
The owner had been trying to sell the empty hotel ever since. It was listed in April for $2.8 million. There are those who are glad to see the hotel gone.
I'm happy, actually, because too many of our brothers and sisters were ODing or getting jumped or stabbed or whatever.
It's probably too early to celebrate having that building gone. It's been a really horrible place for the community.
Still, at one point, there were many who called this home. Gordon Kitchen is a case manager at a sobering center. He says one of their residents was forced to leave the Manwin when it closed and had to leave his personal items behind, which are now lost to the fire.
Clothes, TVs, just all his belongings, 20 years of his life.
Now, the cause of the fire is still under investigation. CTV News reached out to the owner of the hotel for comment. We were unable to reach him.
Jeff, what could the future hold for that soon-to-be empty lot?
Well, the Main Street project says it is interested in that lot, and it has been for some time. It says it reached out to the owner with attempts to potentially purchase it, but it said, you know, the math for the asking price, it just didn't add up. It said it was hoping to maybe offer something for what the actual empty lot would be worth itself, and, well, it is an empty lot now.
All right, thanks for this, Jeff. New video tonight shows how a disgraced former Winnipeg police officer was caught in the act. The undercover video and audio recordings were part of the evidence shown in court at Elston Bostock's sentencing hearing. CTV's John Hendricks is standing by live to tell us more. So, John, what do these video and audio recordings show?
Marilee, the video shows what happened during the first of two police integrity tests that Bostock was put through, which happened in October of 2024. Now, in this video, Bostock, who was sitting in the passenger seat, and another officer had just left the scene of a vehicle break-in and seized a backpack. Now, unbeknownst to them, the entire event was staged.
What's in it? You're going to want to look in there. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Let's go around the corner. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not here. Not here. No. Here, let's go in here. I'm going to see what their camera is. Yeah. Yeah. There's that fanny pack in the bag. Yeah. You'll be interested. I'll be interested. Pretty sure? Pretty sure. Are you fixating today? I'm pretty sure you're going to like what's in there. I purposely didn't take it out of the fanny pack. I just opened it up. And you're like, yeah, he's going to like that. And I zipped it back up. You're like, I never signed.
Another video shows what happens next as Bostock goes to the trunk and rifles through the bag, pocketing $75 in cash and some inert drugs, which were made to look like Xanax pills and meth. The pair then return to the cruiser, divide up the cash, and discuss how to spend it. The other officer is also facing breach of trust charges as a result of the integrity test. Another audio recording presented to court shows Bostock coaching a fellow officer on how to have someone's traffic ticket dropped. Take a listen.
I told him I know you, so like if he could go and just say, yeah, I plead guilty with an explanation, right? Yeah. And then you guys go to court, you show up and you say to the Crown, like, yeah, you know what, I found out stuff that came to light later. He had an explanation. Like, I just like to drop the charge. I just like to drop the ticket. I've never done that before. I've done it, and it works, bleeding. Because they got such a caseload that they don't really care.
Now, today we also received the results of a psychological assessment that Bostock underwent in November of 2025. In it, the psychologist says Bostock was cooperative and polite and became tearful when discussing his family. They say that he has a history of mental health and substance abuse problems, which were compounded by the considerable stress that he was under due to pressures from his job and custody issues with one of his children.
So, John, what happens next?
Well, Mary Lee, as we previously reported, the 49-year-old earlier pled guilty to charges including breach of trust and drug trafficking. The Crown is asking for 7 years in prison, while the defense recommended about 2 years. The judge reserved their decision until next Friday.
All right, thanks for this, John. Some good news tonight following a terrifying school bus rollover in western Manitoba. Tonight, health officials say most of the people hospitalized are headed home. The Canadian Press is reporting one patient will remain at Swan Valley Health Centre in stable condition, while 3 others who were airlifted to hospital in Winnipeg are expected to be discharged before the end of today. RCMP say 4 people suffered significant injuries when a school bus carrying 14 teenage students lost control and rolled over on an icy highway while trying to pass another bus near the community of Mafeking, north of Swan River. The RCMP investigation is ongoing. No word yet on whether any charges may be laid. And that rollover has renewed calls tonight for seatbelts on school buses. As CTV's Joseph Bernacki explains, the Premier says he is open to the conversation.
If we had those seatbelts, would we have had the sprains and the injuries that we had?
It's a question rural bus driver and school bus safety advocate Jody Ruta keeps asking. Ruta says she couldn't sleep last night after seeing reports on the school bus crash north of Swan River. 14 students and a driver on board from Sapoteac Cree First Nation were on their way to Swan Valley Regional Secondary School when the bus careened off the highway.
We're lucky there's no deaths, but no one in that bus crash is lucky.
Ruta has been a bus driver in Beausejour for 6 years. She's built a following on social media, showcasing herself on the job and asking for seatbelts to become mandatory. Tuesday's rollover hit her on a personal level, reminding her of a crash she was in 2 years ago when a pickup truck smashed into the rear end of her bus at this railroad crossing.
I got to watch all of my students, kids that I care about, be flung forward like rag dolls. And then I got to hear them scream and cry for their mums and their dads. And that was in a lucky crash.
Ruta believes the addition of seatbelts to school buses will make them safer. Sapoteac Chief Nelson Janai says it's a bigger conversation that needs to happen.
Seatbelts in school buses, are they mandatory? Are they available? That's something that should be looked at in the near future.
On Tuesday afternoon, Premier Canoe said he's open to the conversation of seatbelts on school buses, but wants to know more information about how this crash occurred.
We have to be patient about identifying what took place in this instance before we rush to propose the right solution.
Lac Dubonnet PCMLA Wayne Owasco tabled a bill in early December. It would require any school bus manufactured after 2025 to have 3-point passenger seatbelts installed.
I don't think anybody ever would argue that we want to make sure that our kids are safe, our students are safe from the time they get on the bus to the time they get home after school.
Joseph Bernacki, CTV News, Beausejour.
Grade 7 students at Bison Run School have been learning about structures this year. And in true Winnipeg fashion, they created warming huts.
We have these little pages to make it look like a book. So like in the real warming hut, it's gonna be like a bunch of like strings coming down to make it look like as if you're inside a book, and it's just making like a cozy place.
This hut, titled Warm Up with a Great Book, was designed and built by a group of students from Waverly West Elementary School. Once completed, the hut will feature a mock fireplace, whiteboard for book recommendations, a bookmark bench, even a library. And the concept is turning heads. It was selected to be showcased on the Nestawaya River Trail later this winter.
It's a really cool thing that I was a part of, honestly, because to think that I was drawing like designs from paper to like a small little prototype made out of like 3D printing and cardboard like this to architects actually like designing and building the warming hut. It's like phenomenal to me, honestly.
The students are also using this opportunity to highlight Toba Center's advocacy work for children and youth. They included a QR code in the design of the hut that takes visitors to the center's website. You'll be able to check out the warming hut at the Forks for yourself in a few weeks' time. A warming hut, not a bad idea tonight, Colleen.
Not too bad at all.
Pretty chilly out there.
A little chilly, a little windy, but you know what? The temperatures are going to be rising once again overnight, courtesy of an incoming low pressure system that's going to spread some snow across much of the province starting tonight. I'll show you where, how long it'll last, and how much you can expect coming up. But first, the CTV Live Eye. Well, that's brought to you by Bathfitter, the exclusive home of the PermaFit solution. In Winnipeg right now, the camera's blowing around in those winds, coming at us at 23 kilometers an hour from the south. Wow, that camera's really spinning around there for us. It's minus 15 degrees. It's partly cloudy. With the wind chill, it feels like minus 25. The pressure's dropping, and the humidity right now, Merritt-Lee, is 77%.
Thanks, Colleen. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces are on the ground in Pimicikamak surveying the damage following a nearly week-long power outage.
So our top priorities right now, we're looking at the community's sewage plant and the 2 water treatment facilities. Simultaneously, we're also taking a look at some of the power generation systems, so the generators that are located at those various locations.
The team's technical assessment commander says they're in the process of assessing exactly what's going on at these locations. Those assessments will inform what additional resources are needed. The commander says the community has been doing a fantastic job keeping systems running, and today, even more help arrived.
So we have a electrical distribution technician who's coming in, and we have a water filtration and environment technician as well. They'll both be key in helping do the assessment on the wastewater treatment facilities, as well as support the power generation systems. The third individual is a liaison officer to help us with the coordination efforts.
Based on those assessments, the officers will determine if any further support is required. Approximately 4,400 people from the First Nation are still out of their homes. Grocery prices have typically been only going in one direction for years, up. But you won't have to dig any deeper to pay for at least one staple, milk. The province says it's freezing milk prices for all of 2026. In 2022, the regulated price of milk increased by a total of 25 cents. The government says the price dropped by 1 cent last year after a review of updated cost data and market conditions. Premier Wab Kinew says the freeze will help keep prices affordable for consumers while also ensuring producers receive fair compensation. Some of the wives and girlfriends of your favorite Winnipeg Jets players traded in pucks for puppies this morning at the Winnipeg Humane Society.
You are so precious. He's 70.
Kiera Pionk, Megan Pearson, and Margot Morrissey volunteered at the facility and met some new friends, namely Matlock and Luca, during their visit. The trio is drumming up support for a pet food drive happening at the February 4th Jets-Habs game. Pionk says helping animals is a cause near and dear to their hearts.
I would say most couples or families have for sure one, if not multiple pets on the team. And all of us, we all like to go home to our pets every single day. So we'd like to support anybody else that may have the same feeling and want to support their local shelters.
More than 800 pounds of food was collected at last season's game, and the ladies hope to do the same next month. They're asking fans to bring dog and cat food to the game or to make a cash donation. Everyone who donates will be entered to win a Jets Pet prize pack. And if you're not going to the game, you can always swing by the Humane Society with your donation. Still to come tonight, Denmark and Greenland boost their military presence around the island territory.
Of course, we share to some extent his concerns.
The move as high-level meetings are set to begin in Washington, and U.S. President Trump continues his annexation threats. That's all after the break. Taking a look at the markets now, crude oil added 95 cents. The Canadian dollar closed fairly flat. Gold rose $36. The TSX is up 46 points. The Dow Jones fell 42 points, while the Nasdaq lost 238 points. Manitobans, particularly those in the north, are being warned about a troubling rise in a potentially deadly bacterial infection. It has to do with a strain of invasive meningococcal disease, or IMD, which has been spreading since December 2023. According to the province, it led to 23 confirmed cases and 4 deaths last year, which it says are well above normal. The majority of those were in the north. Symptoms include a dark rash, high fever, stiff neck, and severe aches and pains. As many as 10% of cases are fatal. The province is encouraging Manitobans to check their immunization records and make sure they're up to date with meningococcal vaccines. The city is getting ready to study the potential for a new, sustainable way of supplying energy to some buildings downtown. It issued a request for proposals for a feasibility study and business case for a direct thermal energy system around Graham Avenue. The idea is to use heat recovery systems or geothermal energy to create a thermal network to offset power usage. The city's RFP says a number of buildings in the area have expressed interest, such as MPI, True North Sports and Entertainment, and the Southern Chiefs Organization. The RFP closes February 4th. A high-stakes meeting at the White House today. Officials from Denmark and Greenland sat down with Vice President and Secretary Marco Rubio. At issue, President Donald Trump's desire to take over the Danish territory, Greenland. CTV's Joy Melbourne has more from Washington.
After months of fielding threats, Denmark ramped up its military presence in Greenland with the help of its NATO neighbors, Air Force, Navy, and Sweden sending in troops, part of a promise to beef up Arctic defense. And to counter President Donald Trump's threats, for months Trump insisted the mineral-rich island is vital to U.S. national security, posting, "It is vital for the Golden Dome that we are building," referring to his missile defense system. If we don't, Russia or China will, and that is not going to happen. The White House mocking what it calls Greenland's defenses, posting this image of sled dogs.
It is not easy to think innovative about solutions when you wake up every morning to different threats.
We're going to see what happens, but we need it.
After their White House meeting, the Danish minister insists China and Russia are not immediate threats, but will look for ways to accommodate Trump's concerns.
Of course, we share to some extent his concerns. There is definitely a new security situation in the Arctic and the high north.
Adding, it's totally unacceptable not to respect Greenland's sovereignty, and Trump's ultimatums, well, they're not going over well with Greenlanders.
The United States will try to buy Greenland, or they will invade it.
I'm afraid that he will destroy the NATO alliance, and he threatens our kingdom and the Greenlanders, and I really don't like that.
The delegation says it will meet with the Trump administration again in hopes of strengthening cooperation, but with one big red line: as allies and not owned by the United States. Joy Melbourne, CTV News, Washington.
The situation with the U.S. and Greenland raises several questions, such as what does Canada's north look like when it comes to Arctic defense? And how vulnerable is this country to Donald Trump's annexation plans? CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Canada's Arctic region makes up roughly 40% of the country's total landmass. It's huge and it's hard to secure.
In the beginning, when Trump wanted to buy Greenland, I just laughed it off because it was so absurd that...
Ayu Peter is a Greenlander who lives in Iqaluit. She still thinks Donald Trump's threats to take Greenland are absurd, but now she takes him seriously and thinks all of the Arctic is at risk.
Canada is right in the middle between Greenland and the United States. He's going to want to also take over Canada.
The federal government has pledged billions of dollars in new defense spending, including money for Arctic security. But in such a vast and mostly uninhabited area, military analysts say defense spending is not enough to assert Canadian sovereignty in the north.
It's really a whole of society approach, working with Northerners, working with territorial governments and the Indigenous people that live in the region to make sure that they have access to the same services.
Canada is set to hit NATO's 2% target this year, but experts say Trump's saber-rattling against NATO members presents a threat to the future of the alliance at a time when it's needed.
This is exactly the time that we need to stand together with our allies, that NATO needs to be very effective and very strong and serve as a deterrent so that Putin won't miscalculate and go even further.
The U.S. ambassador to Canada was asked today whether Trump has his sights set on Canada's Arctic as a way to bolster North American defense. He said Canada, the United States, and Finland are working very closely on defense to ensure they are, quote, in lockstep when it comes to Arctic security. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Quebec Premier François Legault has announced he's stepping down as leader ahead of an election this fall.
I'm seeing now that currently many Quebecers are hoping and wanting a change in Premier. For the good of my party and especially for the good of Quebec, I am announcing today that I will be resigning my position as the Premier of Quebec.
Legault will remain in his role until the party chooses a new leader. When that is, no one knows. His party formed two majority governments since 2018. In recent months, though, the CAQ has faced backlash over its law changing how doctors are compensated, prompting two ministers to resign. 6 legislative members left the CAQ last year. The U.S. has announced the start of Phase 2 of the plan to end the war in Gaza. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says Phase 2 is a transitional phase as officials work toward the full reconstruction of Gaza. Witkoff also says Hamas is expected to comply fully, including the release of the last deceased hostage. And that failure to do so would bring, quote, serious consequences. Thailand's prime minister visited the scene of one of the country's worst rail incidents in decades that left at least 32 people dead.
We will have to investigate what actually happened, and we need to improve safety measures.
Authorities say nearly 200 people were on board the passenger train from Bangkok when a crane collapsed onto it, causing it to derail. 64 people are listed as injured and 3 as missing. The Thai PM suggested the construction company is to blame, but said that still has to be proven. Canadian actor Kiefer Sutherland was arrested for an alleged assault involving a rideshare driver in Los Angeles Monday. LA police say the 59-year-old entered a rideshare vehicle, physically assaulted the driver, and made criminal threats toward the victim. According to jail records, Sutherland was released a few hours later on a $50,000 bond. His first court appearance is scheduled for February 2nd. The past year was the third warmest on record, according to new data from the European Climate Agency. 2025 saw temperatures about 1.47 degrees warmer than pre-industrial levels. At the current rate, the 2015 Paris Agreement's long-term global warming limit of 1.5 degrees could be reached by the end of the decade. That's about a decade earlier than predicted, and Canada is warming faster than the global average, with more wildfires, heat wave storms, and loss of sea ice. There was an unexpected show at the end of a summit meeting between the leaders of Japan and South Korea. This is Japan's prime minister and South Korea's president in a jam session. The two leaders played drums to the song Golden from the award-winning animated hit K-pop Demon Hunters. The summit meeting was scheduled to deepen security and economic ties between the two countries. Up next, communication in and out of Iran is partly restored and the reports coming out of the country are harrowing. The latest death toll amid ongoing protests and an urgent warning from Global Affairs.
And Winnipeg's long-range forecast begins Friday with a pretty high likelihood of a few flurries, a high of minus 13 degrees. That's right around normal for this time of year. Oh, but wait, we drop down to minus 24, also the normal low for this time of year. But then we don't move anywhere Saturday during the day. Brace yourself for a very cool day, minus 23 degrees, under a mix of sun and cloud. The possibility of snow returns Sunday up to minus 17, minus 20 Monday, minus 16 degrees by Tuesday.
Horrific details are emerging from Iran now that partial phone service has been restored of the arbitrary detention of protesters, fast trials, and planned executions. Activists say more than 2,500 Iranians have been killed by the regime. CTV's Adrian Gobriel now on this and the advisory from Global Affairs for Canadians to leave.
As smoke rises above the streets of Tehran and protesters clashed with security forces, Global Affairs Canada is issuing a clear warning to Canadians in Iran. Get out of the country immediately.
This is a very real threat, and it is escalating.
On January 8th, Iran's government cut off the country from the internet. Since then, Iranians have been risking their lives to share these images of brutality with the world. Today, Iran's judiciary head signaled that trials and the execution of protesters would be fast-tracked despite warnings of a military response from U.S. President Donald Trump. Personnel at a key U.S. military base in Qatar have been advised to evacuate by tonight as concerns of a repeat attack on American troops there begin to escalate.
The fact that, the United States has pulled out some of their troops in Qatar is indicative that they think that that threat is real. They have some intelligence, and they're probably got things planned to attack, Iran. And, what are they going to attack? It could be military sites. It could be infrastructure. But we should expect something.
With more than 2,500 believed to be dead, Iran hasn't seen this level of violence since the chaos surrounding the country's 1979 Islamic Revolution. The protests broke out on December 28th after the collapse of Iran's currency, as the country's economy was squeezed by international sanctions levied in part over its nuclear program. Holding up signs of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, thousands took to the streets outside Tehran University for a pro-government mass funeral on Wednesday, as caskets draped in the country's flag, said to be carrying the bodies of approximately 100 security officials and civilians killed in the clashes, were paraded down the streets. Though this is a country far from united, there is a shared concern, as some military experts warn targeted U.S. strikes on Iran may be imminent. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
What a difference a day can make weather-wise, huh?
No kidding. Tell me about it.
Bundle up if you're heading out there. It's not like it has been this week.
No, but then tonight temperatures will be rising throughout the province, courtesy of a warm front accompanying a low-pressure system that's spreading not just snow. I'll show you around the Swan River Dauphin area, picking up on the radar. It looks like snow certainly coming through, but perhaps a little bit of freezing rain there, so do watch out for slippery roads and highways in those areas. Here in Winnipeg, clouds are starting to move in. We'll be getting that snow later on tonight. Still fairly clear in northwestern Ontario, but there's snow headed that way tonight, and that will continue there tomorrow. Ice pellets last hour in Flin Flon have now turned to light snow. It's falling there. Light snow is falling further north in Lynn Lake. And the general track of this system basically moves through Lynn Lake, Thompson, and then eventually out to the Lake of the Woods area. So some of those areas could see 5 to 10 centimeters of snowfall with this system, but a lot of other areas, as I'll show you, will see snow, just not nearly as much. This isn't a particularly potent system, but it will be pretty widespread. But you can see on the western flank there is the potential this evening of freezing rain. It's the potential, so we'll see how that plays out. But as we get later on into tonight, you can see that snow really extends further down into the southeast, into Winnipeg, and it starts to move over the border into northwestern Ontario as well. But even overnight, you can see still that potential of freezing rain along that western flank. Overnight into the commute tomorrow morning, you may catch a break in the the southwest and even here in the southeast. It could be cloudy. There is the possibility. It looks like the snow is going to be intermittent in nature, and it could even really lighten up to outright flurries as we go throughout the day tomorrow. But this is what I mean. You move ahead an hour on the futurecast, things change considerably, potentially out in the southwest there. We're seeing outright showers as well as freezing rain with light snow and flurries continuing to come down. By late tomorrow afternoon, like a blanket, that snow is falling over virtually every part of Manitoba and in northwestern Ontario, albeit lightly. And again, it will likely be intermittent in nature as it winds down finally as we get overnight, even into Friday, starting to see some of that finally clear out first in the northwest. So again, not significant amounts. It just may be a little long lasting. You see the asterisk, that tells you the temperatures will be rising throughout the night to -6 here in Winnipeg. Light snow is expected late tonight along some pretty strong and gusty south winds. Still strong, those south winds tomorrow with the possibility of snow, light snow or flurries. We should be sitting at around -4. Flurries likely in the afternoon with a high of 2, but you see those winds, they're going to flip around with the passage of that low, and they will come out of the northwest. In the northeast tonight, light snow all around the region. Temperatures rising there as well, including in Thompson, up to -5 by morning. More snow there. Now, Thompson is one of the areas that will likely see the most snow. Snow falling across the northwest tonight for the most part. It will continue snow or flurries tomorrow with temperatures quite mild in most areas. In the southwest tonight, flurries expected for most areas, including Brandon and Dauphin. Temperatures rising close to freezing, and then tomorrow, light snow begins to fall in the Brandon area. Flurries for Dauphin. Winnipeg in the southeast, light snow expected late tonight with temperatures rising throughout the night. Light snow or flurries continuing tomorrow with those very mild temperatures at or above freezing. And in northwestern Ontario, light snow tonight, and guess what? More of the same tomorrow. Our first weather photo is from Ian. This is the sunset near Arborg in the Interlake. A beautiful photo there. And this next one's lovely too. It's from Paul. Now this is looking out at Portage Bay. This is at Keewatin, Ontario, just west of Kenora. This was taken within the last couple of days. You'll note that open water there too. Send us your weather photos to winnipegweather@ctv.ca.
Thanks, Colleen. A common practice in Atlantic Canada has been banned in parts of Europe. Several countries say lobsters should not be boiled alive. And that has started a conversation on the East Coast. Josh Smith reports.
Boiling live lobsters has been banned in the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Norway, and New Zealand. The Lobster Council of Canada's executive director, Jeff Irvin, is watching the new policy unfold in the UK.
If they're dealing with live lobster, that they are no longer able to boil them live. So they'll have to kill them in a different way. They'll have to stun them, or they'll have to cut them in half with a large knife.
In an industry worth almost $3 billion annually to Atlantic Canada, Irvin says it's still too early to know what the UK's decision will mean for the Maritimes.
It's too early to know what the impact will be, but I don't expect it will have a massive impact. We have 40 other countries we sell to. We produce frozen products that they can buy and not be subject to this issue.
Dalhousie University professor Shelley Adamo says animal welfare is important, but adds that the science is unclear on this topic.
I really don't think lobsters have the capacity for feeling pain, certainly not the way we do.
While Europe's recent moves have forced a closer look on how lobsters are treated, the Lobster Council of Canada says there is nothing new on the table. So that means it's business as usual for lobster lovers. Josh Smith, CTV News, Shediac, New Brunswick.
So I have to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to use my arms.
Coming up, she traveled to Costa Rica for cosmetic surgery and nearly died. An Ontario woman is now warning others after a horrific ordeal left her with permanent life-altering injuries. Medical Watch is next. January is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and as rates continue to rise, it's more important than ever we all have a better understanding about it. Joining me now to help shed some light on it and the supports available to those living with Alzheimer's is Erin Crawford, CEO of the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba. Erin, so good to speak with you.
Thanks very much for having me.
Let's start with the rates of Alzheimer's right now here in Manitoba and the projections for the future.
Yeah, so right now there's about 20,000, a little over 20,000 Manitobans who have a dementia diagnosis. About 9 Manitobans a day are getting a dementia diagnosis, and we expect that 20,000 is going to double to almost 40,000 over the next 20 years. So it's a lot of us, and we need to be concerned about it.
Do we know what causes dementia?
We know some things about what causes dementia, but we don't know everything. And so really when we look at we talk about reducing your risk of dementia, because even if you do everything right, we know there's people who still get a dementia diagnosis, but there are things you can do to reduce that risk and make it a little less likely that you might be one of those folks.
What can we do then to reduce our risk? What tips can you offer?
Yeah, so the usual suspects, right? The healthy diet, exercise, not drinking, not smoking, all of those sorts of things that we hear about for other diseases also apply to reducing our risk of dementia. But there's a few other things that are maybe a little more fun to do that also help reduce your risk of dementia. So staying connected with friends, going out for lunch, go golfing, all those things can help you reduce your risk. Take care of your hearing and your vision. Increasingly, it seems as though our senses are connected to developing dementia. So there are some things, if you can do those things, folks who have dementia diagnosis right now, I know would do anything not to. So for those of us who aren't in that boat at this point, we're doing those things that can reduce our risk is really important.
For those who already do have the diagnosis, what sort of supports are available to them here in Manitoba?
I think there's actually a surprising number of things that the Alzheimer Society offers people aren't aware of, and that's counseling, it's education, bringing in local experts on really important topics related to the things you might be facing, it's recreation programs, it's support groups. There's actually quite a bit here at the Alzheimer Society that you can take advantage of and really find a community of people who very much are going through the same things you are, facing the same things you are, and you can give and get advice from other people.
I know I read a study recently that showed there's a lot of anxiety around this. About half of Canadians, I think I read, have some anxiety about getting an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis. What can you tell us about, developments around medications or treatments maybe offering hope?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we all hear that's the first question we get whenever we go anywhere. Is somebody worried about, does this thing that I forgot mean that I have dementia? Part of the reason we're worried about that is because there aren't great treatments right now for it. But it has been very exciting. In the last couple of years, there's been some really new developments in what we call disease-modifying therapies. So things that actually change the course of the progression of the disease. So there has been a drug finally approved in Canada for use in very, very early stages of dementia. Somebody who is interested in that, I would recommend go talk to your doctor, because there are a lot of obstacles to accessing that right now. But it's really exciting that those types of treatments are starting to be developed and approved.
Hopefully more research will lead to more breakthroughs. Erin, always great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thanks so much for having me.
South of the border, new data shows 7 in 10 people in the United States now survive at least 5 years after a cancer diagnosis. That's according to the American Cancer Society's latest annual report. By comparison, in the 1970s, only about half of cancer patients lived 5 years or longer. Doctors say the 5-year mark is critical, as the risk of many cancers returning drops significantly after that point. Medical tourism is a $100 billion industry worldwide, and more Canadians looking to reduce wait times and costs are jumping on the bandwagon. But what happens when things don't go smoothly? Pauline Chan looks at how one woman's desire for cosmetic changes left her fighting for her life in a foreign country.
She was a 52-year-old business owner and mother of 4 who also had abdominal surgery to remove a massive tumor.
My dream was to have a mummy makeover.
A tummy tuck and breast lift. But after her medical excursion to Costa Rica last fall, Nicole Grigorov is facing a very different future from what she expected for the new year.
So I have to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to use my arms. I have to learn how to do everything.
Sepsis resulted in the loss of her fingers and toes, but Nicole was just one of the thousands of Canadians who went overseas last year for medical or cosmetic surgery. The U.S.-based Medical Tourism Association says there's been a 40% jump last year in Canadians going abroad for anything from faster hip replacements to nose jobs.
It's estimated that it's 432,000. And that's, data we have from hospitals, governments in some of the destination countries.
I just went online and did a ton of research. So I interviewed some doctors in Canada. Canada wasn't out of the question.
But in the end, she chose a clinic in Costa Rica.
The main driving factor is the cost. The cost of care in those countries is considerably lower. The overhead expense, the time in an operating room, the medications cost less there.
The cost for Costa Rica, about $20,000 plus flights.
So in Canada, it would have probably been 25% more.
But Nicole doesn't recall waking up at the clinic where her surgery was done. Nicole Grigorov spent some 3 weeks in a coma in Costa Rica. Her organs shut down, and when she finally awoke, her next challenge was trying to get back to Canada. Close friend Rod Ponkin stepped in with $85,000 for an air ambulance, and that wasn't the only hurdle.
There's a lot of moving parts because the air ambulance, the doctor and their team had to correspond with Niagara doctors, and they had to consult.
It was a 2-week wait to secure a hospital bed, with Nicole paying for each day in the Costa Rican hospital. She arrived in Niagara just before Halloween, and a couple of weeks later, she had to have all her fingers and toes amputated.
I just want my life back. I want peace in my life.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
And switch.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manuke and Koster Denture Clinic.
I'm the writer, the director, the producer, and the star. As the actor, I ask for a little more money. As the director, I say, what are you, crazy? You stink. I'm not going to pay that kind of money.
A closer look at a comedy legend, where you can see a new documentary about Mel Brooks.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Jade Eagleson.
Trevor Noah is set to host the Grammy Awards for the 6th consecutive year, marking his farewell gig.
What the Super Bowl is to the NFL, what Valentine's Day is to romance, what Father's Day is to Nick Cannon, that's what the Grammys is to music.
CBS and the Recording Academy confirmed this will be Noah's last time hosting the ceremony, a role he's held since 2021. It's also the last time the show will air on CBS before it moves over to ABC and Disney+. The 68th Grammy Awards will take place on February 1st. The list of Canadian nominees includes Justin Bieber, Tate McRae, Drake, and Joni Mitchell. Well, if you're a comedy fan, this upcoming documentary is probably for you.
I'm the writer, the director, the producer, and the star. As the actor, I ask for a little more money. As the director, I say, what are you, crazy? You stink. I'm not going to pay that kind of money. Mel Brooks' job.
Mel Brooks, the 99-year-old man, is an upcoming 2-part documentary about the legendary actor, writer, and director. It follows the life, career, and friendships of Brooks as he skyrocketed to comedy royalty. It starts streaming on January 22nd on HBO Max and in Canada on Crave. The boys of heated rivalry are coming back sooner than expected.
Shane pulled back and examined Ilya's face. You look tired. That's my line.
Nova Scotia author Rachel Reed has announced another book is in the works. The 7th installment in her Game Changer series is now set to be published in September. It's called Unrivaled and will pick up where the long game left off, with Shane and Ilya open about their relationship and playing on the same team. As for the show, it has been picked up for season 2, but Crave hasn't said yet when it's expected to be released. Your primetime lineup starts at 7 with The Masked Singer, then catch Fear Factor, House of Fear at 8. Shark Tank is at 9, and closing at 10 is Shifting Gears. It's all right here tonight on CTV.
Business in the front, party in the back. Who was hoping to take home the title at this year's Pennsylvania Mullet Contest when we return.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
Well, the highest temperature today was -15 for Winnipeg. The normal is -13, but we were a little less cold today than this day 1 year ago. The high that day, -17.8. Tonight, the temperature rising once again up to -6 by morning, likely with a little bit of light snow along the way. Light snow and flurries expected at times tomorrow with a high of +2. -13 with flurries Friday. -23 our high merrily on Saturday. -17 with snow possible on Sunday, with temperatures staying a little cold Monday, Tuesday.
I'll be hibernating. Thanks, Colleen. A mullet contest at the Pennsylvania Farm Show is a sight to behold. Hundreds turned out Monday at the Pennsylvania Farm Show as kids, teens, and adults showed off their carefully coiffed mullets, all taking their shot at the championship crown. It's often referred to as business in the front, party in the back. The enduring hairstyle is a salute to hockey players and hair metal bands. Now, in addition, he's fluffing it up.
Yes.
In addition to winners in age categories, there is a Flow of Freedom Award that goes to the most patriotic participant, and a Best in Grow is, of course, awarded to the winner of all categories. That is a pretty...
That's a full head of hair back there, yeah. Look at that one.
For all our mullet viewers out there,
this one's for you.
Big shoes to fill there. Yeah. All right. Have a good night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.